Good morning, everyone. Today we are making burrito in a jar. Now, the idea for this recipe is that inside of the jar you have everything that you need to fill a burrito. And then you just put it on a tortilla, add some cheese to it, salsa if you want, but it's not really necessary, and you've got dinner. Now, before I get started, I want to say a couple of things. First of all, this is not an approved recipe, and there's two reasons why. One is it has dry beans that have been rinsed, but they have not been soaked. Secondly, it has rice in it, and neither of those things are approved for canning. So just be aware of that. This has not been officially tested. I'm doing it based on the word of many other people who have done it and rave about it. So you do whatever you feel right about, and if you're not comfortable doing this, then don't do it. That's the bottom line. So I'm just going to show you the process. And one thing that I do want to say is that it's very important for you to put the items in the jar in the order that I am putting them in the jar. We start off by adding a half a cup of dried beans to each jar. And again, I've rinsed these, but they have not been soaked. And I'm just going to kind of even these out a little bit. Okay, next we add a quarter of a cup of rice. I am using brown rice. That's what I generally use, plus it will just hold up a little better in the canning process. And I actually have a half cup measurement, and so I'm just kind of eyeballing it and using about half of it. So put that in. So if anything, I'm erring on the side of not putting as much rice as it calls for, rather than too much rice. Okay? All right, the next thing that you need is a third of a cup of onions and a third of a cup of bell pepper. You can see I'm doing this. I really, on this stage, don't need the funnel. All right. Now, the bell pepper that I'm using is bell pepper that I had dehydrated that I rehydrated. So if it looks a little different, that's why. Put a little bit more because I spilled some. Okay. Next we have 1 cup of ground beef that has already been cooked. Now this I'm going to use a funnel for, because I could see it being a little bit messy. Okay, and now I need to add 4 tablespoons of Rotel tomatoes to each jar. And I have 2 cans here just in case 1 can isn't quite enough. There's 1, 2, 3. I actually had those kind of heaping, so I'm just going to do 3. And hopefully this 1 can will be sufficient. And I can tell you right now I'm going to have to open the other can, unfortunately. So I'm just going to pour some of the soup, juice, into this. And get my other can. So this is something I would maybe do a little bit differently, because I don't like ending up with a partial can of something. But we'll see how it ends up looking. I might be able to just spread this out. I just want to leave enough room for plenty of the liquid, since my beans and my rice are not cooked yet. We want to make sure and have plenty of liquid in here. So I don't want to overdo it. Okay, that's about as far as I want to go. And now we're going to put in a tablespoon of taco seasoning into each jar. Okay. And it does call for a half of a teaspoon of kosher salt. I am going to be adding broth that's fairly salty, so I'm just going to put a pinch of salt in each one, because we can always add more salt if desired. Okay. And now it says to add broth to 1-inch headspace. Okay, so I'm going to add the broth to each of the jars, and then I'll debubble and I may need to add more. I'm going to err on the side of not adding too much at the beginning, and then if I need to I can spoon some more in. I'm going to debubble each of these, and then if I need to I will add more broth, which I probably will need to add a little bit more broth to each one. I'm going to wipe each of the rims with vinegar. Sometimes it's okay to use water, and other times you want to be sure to use vinegar. Since I had meat, I want to make sure that I'm using vinegar on these and wiping the rims real well. Now I'm going to add the lids fingertip tight. And I'm going to pressure can these for 90 minutes. I'm using the Nesco Smart Canner, so that's what I'm going to demonstrate, but you can do this in any canner. Just be sure to follow your canner guidelines from the manual in terms of how much water to add and so on. I just now put a splash of vinegar in. I have hard water here and I don't want the jars to cloud up. I am putting in 8 cups of cold water. And the reason I'm doing cold water is because this recipe is a cold pack. The meat is cooked, but I've had it in the fridge for a while. And so, everything is at room temperature or cold. All right. And by the way, I said I put 8 cups of water in. That's because that's what my canner calls for. Yours, often 3 quarts seems to be pretty standard, but you need to follow the instructions on your canner manual. Okay, so I just put the lid down. I'm going to close the lid, and I am moving it to the exhaust position. In a standard canner, you would just leave the weight off for this process, and what's going to happen is I'm going to set it on high. I'm putting in the time, which is 90 minutes, and then I'm going to press start, and it's going to take probably up to a half an hour for this to start venting steam. Once it starts a steady stream of steam, I will push start again. And if you were using a standard like a Presto stovetop canner, once the steam started venting, you would wait 10 minutes. This is actually going to count down 10 minutes, and so it's a very similar process, but I'll bring you back at that time. Okay, you can see that it is at E10, which means it's stop. It just went to E9, so it's going to vent for 9 minutes now. And then I will switch the gauge to airtight. That would be the same as putting on your weight on your stovetop canner. Bring you back in just a bit. Okay, you can see that it's now, the exhaust has been going on for 9 minutes. There's 1 minute left. And as soon as it goes off, as soon as it beeps, I'll be switching the weight to the airtight position. Again, this would be equivalent to putting the weight on your pressure canner if you used a stovetop canner. You can hear how the sound is changing. Okay, there it goes. And I'm moving the weight to airtight. And then it's going to take a while to get up to pressure. This is the same way on your stovetop. It would take a while to get to where the weight started rocking. But once it hits that point, it will then immediately start counting down from 90. The 90 minutes have ended. I'm going to unplug the canner. Now, if you are using a stovetop canner at this point, you would turn the heat off. And either way, you need to leave the weight on, or in my case, I'm leaving it in the airtight position, and let the pressure come down naturally. It probably will take, at least for me, about an hour or so for it to come down. So I'll see you back in a little bit. Okay, the pressure has dropped on its own. It's been about an hour and a half. So I'm going to open the canner and take out the cans and see what things look like. Okay, there's the first can. I do see some siphoning, but as far as I can tell, everything is okay. It's definitely smelling good. Okay, so all 4 jars are out. I need to wait until things close down before I check them again. I'll check them in the morning to see what's sealed. It looks like so far 3 out of the 4 have sealed. This one hasn't gone down yet, so but I've just taken it out, so it should be hopefully sealing very soon. I'll see you in the morning and I'll show you how everything turned out. Hello everyone, it's now the next morning and we're going to check and see if these sealed. Okay, that one is. By the way, since there was some siphoning, I can feel that the outsides feel a little bit greasy, so I'm going to be washing them. But that one sealed. Okay. And, all right, so they all sealed. I'll be just using some hot soapy water to wash them. You can see that there's beans, there's rice, there's ground beef, tomatoes, and so on. So I think that this is going to be real good. I'll actually be finding out because we will be having our first, we'll be using it for the first time today. So I'll be sure and take a picture of the burrito when I make it. And I will put that up so you can see what it looks like in the final product in terms of actually using it. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I would really appreciate it if you would like the video, and of course if you haven't already done so, if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the notification bell. Thank you so much everyone. Have a great day.